Gozani. Hi there. Hi, Queen Noxie. Hi, everyone. Please tap the screen. Tap if you may. Please share this out to your platform. This is going to be a treat because we don't get Mkulu that often. So we are really excited. Please share this out, invite friends, tap the screen, keep tapping that screen so it goes up in the algorithm. I hope everybody is well. How are you guys doing? You're all well. Linda, I see. Diaspora family, this is your time. Come on through. Come on through. Get all your questions answered. And the way we'll do this, family, is that if you have a pressing question that nobody else has asked, you can request. I will bring you on. I won't bring on too many people at a time because I would like to save this recording and then post it on our various social media platforms. And a lot of the times, if you have too many people at once, if you have the full house, so to speak, the recording quality becomes very, very poor. Yes, what a great day indeed. Whoa, and we are filling up very quickly. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Abiba. Thank you. I see you guys. I'm just gonna wait for Mkulu. I literally don't even want to say a word. uh, as soon as I see him, I will invite uh, him to come on through. Yeah, so let's just wait. Otherwise, hope everybody is having a good day. I know that it's 11 over here in the Northern Hemisphere. I know it's evening, it's about 5 p.m. in the Southern Hemisphere. So hope everyone is having a good time. Thank you. Keep tapping the screen, guys. It really takes nothing for me to tap the screen. Let's tap and let's see if we can get to 15K likes in record time. There are 112 people here. If everybody taps that screen, this thing is going to go wild. So please, 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 please. Wow, we're already at 114 people. Let's go, let's go. I am going to, if you give me a second, I'm going to take this link and I'm going to share it with Umkulu so that he knows exactly where to find us. Coming right now, guys, Umkulu, so that he knows exactly where to find us. Coming right now, guys, to make sure sound is great. Can you guys hear me? If you can hear me, yes, yes, yes. And I think Umkulu is actually here. It says guest. No, it's not Mkulu. Oh, let me invite him. I've sent the invitation. So, oh, Mkulu, you're here. Oh, see. Oh, there we go. And Mkulu is on. Togoza Mkulu.
Thokoza Ndlovukazi.
How are you? So what I want to do is I'm going to expand you. There we go. That way you are more visible because you are the honored guest here today. Thokoza Mkulu, thank you so much
Thokoza Ndlovukazi.
thank you for gracing us with your presence today. There's a lot of excitement in the house as people come and join. And the excitement has been going on for about 2 weeks as we have hyped people up about the calendar, the diaspora version of the Royal African calendar. And there were a lot of questions around that calendar. People are excited that it's here because people have been asking for this calendar for over a year. And so finally, they are like, yes, we cried and we were heard. And I just want us, before we go far, Mkulu, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself? Because I do know that we have royals here who have actually never heard you talk about who you are, How this whole calendar came to be, and let's start there.
Oh, Thokoza, Mkhulu CEO of the Zinzi Mandela Foundation, and co-founder of the Great Empire of Kemet. Hey, yazi Ndlovukazi, for this calendar to be available, it took a lot of time and decoding of information that was readily available, but because of the consciousness that we had at the time, the information was there, but we're not ready for that information. As an example, the calendar that we promote derives from the oldest stone calendar in the world. We call it Nzalo Elang. The evil ones, Abelungu, call it the Adam's calendar. So it's been there for centuries here in South Africa. But until, our great one, Ubabu Credo, Credo Moto, Ubabu Credo spoke about it, then, quite a long time ago, guys. But a lot of us didn't hear him, because we're busy enjoying the spoils, offered by the colonizer at the time. We're not ready to hear. Until, I myself, Ndlovukazi uzinze,
Ndlovukazi.
We then decided to then, take a closer look at and listen carefully to what Ubabu Credo was, teaching to the rest of us. And that's when we started to be closer to him, visited him, found him in the worst of states, that a human being could live under, at a particular time where Ubabu Credo was, being offered places to live, but not given his own place in exchange for the knowledge that he has.
Wow.
As African people, as black people, we have allowed the exploitation of Ubabu Credo by white people who came from all over the world to suck the information so that they go and, strengthen their tool of social control. Unfortunately, we were much drawn to this knowledge and information because it was talking about a past, that they call the golden, age of the continent. Ubabu Credo was talking about all these things. And, to our surprise, for us to actually know that civilization started here on the continent. For the first time we hear that from Ubabu Credo. Then, it stimulated our interest to a point that we ended up going to Baba every weekend without, missing a weekend. For us to go and, listen, sit on his feet and listen to the stories he was relating to us.
Wow.
Then we started that research, got all the books that he suggested, started reading those books, and some of the books that came to the collection, they were divinely inspired, because you will find that there's this book that, I'm reading, but now I feel that there's got to be a second and a third version of this story for it to be complete. And every time I would go to a bookshop, the first book I would touch, on those shelves, it will be a book that will take me from A to B, B to C. That's how most of my collection, happened, being given that foundation, by Babu Credo. So this calendar is based on that older stone calendar, the interpretation, because it marks the solstices as well as the equinoxes, so that we know when is our winter, solstice, when is our spring equinox, when is our vernal, equinox, and the summer solstice, So we then took interest and wanted to know more, about this calendar. We started doing our research independently, looking to all and listening to all those, masters, and most of them, were outside the country. Dr. Clark,
Yes.
Dr. Ben, all those people, we started listening to them. But before we got there, what really gave us the foundation in terms of confidence, for us to be able to be confident to challenge the status quo, and refuse to conform to an unjust, system. It was Farrakhan. Farrakhan gave us that foundation. Farrakhan proved to us that you can be a black leader that is, not compromising on your principles, uncorruptible, so those are things that gave us the confidence. So by the time we're busy in research for over 10 years, we had no fun. Where, from work, I would come back home, read and read for 10 years full,
Wow.
internalizing this knowledge, to a point that divine inspiration, came and said, it is important for you, since you understand the interpretation of that oldest stone calendar in the world, put it, write, a book about it, so that we
Wow.
are able to relate. And, during my research, because the research started here at home, finding out why are we using all these, Greek, names in our calendar. Oh, July, after Julius
August.
Caesar, August, after Augustus, all these colonizers' names. We then, went back and said, okay, fine. Didn't we have a calendar as African people before these colonizers, the evilness, visited us on the continent? And we found that we had a calendar that was linked to nature, based on the names of the months, because all indigenous languages, here on the south, what they name the month of September, it means, it's different interpretation, but meaning is the same, a beginning of a new cycle. That the month, the first month of the African year, we called it, or our ancestors called it, Umandulo, because we're going back to where we started from. So it was then easy to then link up that calendar that was taught to us by Bob Credo, and what was before colonization. We then came to the conclusion that this is the calendar that will actually take us back and reconnect us back as African people, because it was a concern to us, Ndlovukazi, every year, either during the Jewish New Year or the Chinese New Year or the Indian New Year. You see these people celebrating, and yet we as African people, the indigenous people, we don't have a day that we call this is our New Year. So it really, bothered us, and, a solution came through divine inspiration. We never went to school for us to decode exactly, that older stone calendar, but through divine inspiration, we're then, able to piece it, together.
Thokoza Ketla, thank you so much for that introduction. And I think it's important that you share this information, because I don't think that majority of Bagwantu understand the importance of a calendar or the importance of keeping time. And I think that is one of the most atrocious things that colonization has done to us, is it has literally removed us from being able to question and think critically in terms of why are we using this particular calendar. And also, I think it's important for Bagwantu to hear this, because I think this will validate their greatness in terms of that calendar is the first stone, it's the first calendar in the world, and never mind that it's in stone, but also that our ancestors had their ways of timekeeping. Talk to us a little bit, Nkulu, about the importance of aligning with that calendar versus the Gregorian calendar or the Chinese calendar or the Mayan calendar. There are so many calendars for Bagwantu, for African people, melanated beings. Why is it important to align with that oldest calendar? Thokozeni.
Oh, Chokoza and Ndlovukazi, firstly, it is, the most important practical instrument we can use to unite black people all over the world. Because we witness every year the Chinese being united, during their New Year. The same thing with the, Muslims. The same thing with the Jews. But when it comes to us, we are always following, these other nations. And yet we are the founders of the calendar. The oldest, calendar in the world is found here on the continent. So it's very important. It's practical, which is why we are pushing this. So that we could have that unitary point as African people. And do like what other nations are doing. A Jewish person who is in the UK, or whether they are in America, when it comes to the Jewish New Year at home in Israel, all of them, are kneeling at that time, which is what gives them power, because power comes in that unity, that collective action, of people. So unfortunately, on the continent, we are ruled by people who are followers, of a colonial, system and way of being, because they ignore the importance of spirituality and the importance of culture. You can never build a nation without a strong cultural foundation as well as the spiritual foundation. Because if you were to look at all nations in the world, this is what they do, as the foundation for their nation. Us as African people, right from Ghana when it got into independence, Egypt, all these countries, just accepted, what the colonizer gave them. The colonizer said, the new year is on the 1st of January, and yet nature negates that.
Yes.
In January, I'll make an example. In isiZulu, January is called Uzibandlela, no, Umasingana. But a month before January is called December, Uzibandlela, meaning what is the month of growth. It's the month of maturity. Everything is matured. So therefore, you can never start a year, when everything is matured.
It's maturing,
and
right.
we ignore what nature, reveals to us every time, September comes. September, we are seeing greening of nature, and yet we ignore them as African people. We are listening to the colonizer. This is what the master said. This is when I should celebrate my new year. Forgetting that the world is divided into two. There is the northern hemisphere, there is the southern hemisphere. In between is the imaginary line of the equator. Meaning that everything that happens on the north, is the opposite in the south.
Of course.
All of, Africa celebrates Christmas and New Year on the 1st. Why is that? With all the intelligentsia, all the landed people of the continent, and ignoring the fact, of going back to history because the first time was calculated by our ancestors in northern Kemet, they call Egypt. There at the great, pyramid of Giza, this is where the 0 point is. Meaning that, time was calculated there because, it was believed, it is believed that it is at the center of Earth. So the true meridian was there, calculated from the great, pyramid of Giza. Now the colonizer come on the continent, they move us from that true meridian, they move us to the Greenwich meridian, completely misaligning us, on top of what they did with the calendar. Because you cannot force a northern-based calendar upon the southerners, because we are misaligning them. For them to follow a calendar that is based on the northern hemisphere whilst they are on the southern hemisphere. So this is what we are trying to realign so that all Africans, we are able to harmonize with the energy of the continent so that we get the strength and the power and the assistance from ancestors as we are in that, process of, totally liberating ourselves. And the war now, it's spiritual. So if we defeat them in the spirit, it will be easy for us to defeat them physically because they are already weak, which is why GK has embarked, on promoting, the calendar so that we are all supposed to be united by this spirit, this energy of the continent, and be as powerful as our ancestors. Maybe we will rule the world again as they did, before. Thokoza and Ndlovukazi.
Thokoza Ndlovukazi. Mkhulu, wow.
Hayi Ndlovukazi.
Askis Mkhulu.
Thokoza.
Thokoza Khetha. Mkhulu, you've said a mouthful. You've said a mouthful, but there are some things that I think we need a little bit of clarity, particularly because, like I said, this is for your diaspora children who've been crying to hear from you.
Yes.
Can you explain to us how it is that those of us who are based in the northern hemisphere, how does this calendar in the southern hemisphere, what does it matter to us? For example, September is the spring equinox in the southern hemisphere. But over here in the northern hemisphere, March is the spring equinox. So the question has come up often in terms of being aligned with nature. For us in the northern hemisphere, wouldn't it make more sense for us to align with the equinoxes and the solstices of the northern hemisphere? If you could explain that for us.
Oh no, certainly, Ndlovukazi, you are there, you are affected physically, as well as spiritually, in that place. Do like what the Jews do. Do like what the Chinese do. The Chinese, engage in that northern, celebration, but they know spiritually when they have to connect with their DNA, they have to look back home. When it comes to their new year, right? So it is a common practice internationally. As long as you are an African, as long as you are black, your DNA links you up here on the continent. So partake in those things, but knowing very well, especially for those that are on the southern hemisphere, the danger of them partaking in Christmas and Easter. They are assisting the ancestors, the spiritual ancestors, the evil ones, for them to continue and strengthen them so that they are able to finish the job. What is the job? to keep us in subjugation all the time. So we need to make them weak spiritually. But, it becomes difficult when spiritually they are supported by Africans for them to maintain the power that, they show us, they control us with that power. So we need to be intelligent, as African people, because what affects me, who lives in Jamaica, affects me, somebody else who lives in the UK. As long as we are black, we are connected. That DNA, combines us, and that mitochondria, we all belong to. We from one womb. So therefore, it doesn't matter what you live in Japan, whatever, as long as you are melanated, you belong to the continent. So therefore, your loyalty, your first loyalty must be the continent. Everything that happens on the continent, you need to be spiritually and physically involved. Just like other nations. Jews all over the world, they all know, they are working for their home. All of them, like the Chinese. A Chinese person, the first time they land anywhere, they ask, where's the Chinese restaurant? That is the patriotism, China was able to build amongst, its own people. So we as African, people as well, we need to demonstrate. Remember, African people, we are in terms of number, we are more than any other nation in the world. But we cannot demonstrate that. We cannot show that. Why? Because we are so much, so separated. Everything separates us. Politics is divisive by nature, separates us. Religion separates us. And we all are so obsessed with these two things that bring separation to us. So it's about time for us to be able to be bounded by the spirit of the continent, so that we rebuild that patriotism, we assist, other Africans, like what is happening, the move in the West Africa, that needs to be assisted by all of us, for us to sending positive energies to those true leaders of the continent who have shown what it is, that has to be done to totally free African people. So it's important for those that are not at home, for us to join us spiritually. Kneel down with us when we kneel at 12 noon. Kneel with us, because that just amplifies that wave, as we are articulating the same thing, meaning that our messages go much faster when we act as a collective. And it's nothing new. We see it happening with other nations. So why don't we join in the same thing, for our benefit, instead of being divided by so many things? There are so many things that divide us, especially politics and religion. These are two enemies, of African unity. So we need to be vigilant, and work for a better future besides Ndlovukazi. We are in the age of Ma'at. Remember, Ma'at is that principle that is dictating order, harmony, and balance and structure. So change is upon us. We can't, behave as slaves in this century as African people. We need to raise our consciousness so that we are able to love one another again. We are able to unite, because what affects me, here in Soweto, affects you in the US, as long as you are black. So we can't be indifferent, and behave abnormal, because it's abnormal, for a people that belong, to one house, to never assist each other, but be continuously fighting each other, instead of looking at the real enemy of African unity.
Okay. Yes, a house divided can never stand. And I
Yes.
think that the unity, which is the actual theme for our September 2024 celebration, is Black unity. Um, it is the prevailing energy, is that energy of unity. We see it across the continents. We see young people who are rising up and they are protesting poor governance. In other words, spirit is moving and showing them
Sure.
that this governing structure, these
Yes.
republics, are not working. I won't even talk about religion, which you mentioned as one of the two most divisive things to Black people. Religion is, especially I say Christianity because that's the one I kind of see a lot, that is crumbling too. So all
Sure.
these colonial structures are going to crumble as we move further and further into the age of Ma'at, because that age of Ma'at, like you say, is the age of truth, justice, order, structure, balance, and harmony. So those things have to be met in this order, whether we like it or not. But we can assist this movement quicker to so that we get our liberation quicker by uniting and uniting of one mind, one thought, one emotion,
Yes.
one heart.
Yes.
That is literally, and I love that because that is what the great empire of Kemet is all about. So, Ketha, can you explain to us, or maybe give us a little bit about um, there's a question that people ask, and I think you're the best person to answer this. There are people who talk about the Ethiopian calendar as being
Yes.
the calendar. Can we just debunk that once and for all? And can you explain why that calendar is also misaligning people?
Oh, Chokos and Jovgaz, yes, we grew up knowing, the Ethiopian calendar. But now through research, we then discover that Ethiopia is right in terms of the month, but the date of the 11th is calculated based on the birth of the so-called fake Jesus. So we can then align with that.
Right.
The actual and scientific date is the 23rd of September, the day after the spring equinox, because this is what happens. On the 21st of September, the sun officially leaves the northern hemisphere, enters that imaginary line of the equator. 21st, 22nd is the equinox. 23rd, it makes 1 degree southwards, signifying a new cycle for the southern hemisphere. So the 11th of September, it's a political decision. It's not based in any science. It has no correlation at all.
Togo's understood. I hope this has clarified for those who are always, always, always talking about the Ethiopian calendar is the correct calendar. Nkulu has explained it for you. I hope you've heard it. Don't come and bother me anymore about this.
And another thing, guys, I think even the calculation of the year of the Ethiopians, it has some political influence, I suspect, on that. Why? Because the oldest stone calendar in the world here in South Africa, in Zaloelang, in Mpumalanga, that calendar, it's estimated to be over 200,000 years old. You understand? But now we can't say that, for sure, because we haven't done the scientific work ourselves. All these views is the scientific work that was done by white people who come and visit the site. So it is up, it's upon us, because we know government is not interested in anything that has to, that involves any form of blackness, because there's no reason for us that place, and of Gazi, if I may just expand a bit.
Sure.
the oldest calendar sits, on what you would say sacred ground. This is what Bob Credo said to us. That site, it is the most sacred site in the world. You can compare that site with Mecca, right? But now the black government that is ignorant of such things gives no attention. You must see the state of our sacred site, how dilapidated it is. It's irresponsible for a black government, for them to ignore such history. Look at what the British people did to that, Stonehenge.
Yeah.
Stonehenge, when it comes to winter solstice or summer solstice, you find all the British people, all spiritual British people are there. They doing their spiritual work and they're free. The government has respected that site, for them. And they make sure that they keep it clean. They even assisted in realigning those stones. But you can't say the same thing with, African, government. Government people who come here with colonized mindset. This is the result of, being led by people who suffer the residue of a colonized mindset, and they expect us to pay when we go to our sacred site, and yet people there in, Britain, when they go to that site of theirs, they're free to access that site because the British government understand the importance, the spiritual importance of that site. So now we have to be subjected to colonial rule, which is unjust, and unimplementable on the continent. It has no jurisdiction. This is what is governing us as a black people. We allow foreign law and foreign concepts to dominate the minds of African people. So this is how unfortunate we are as African, people. But new leaders are emerging, true leaders that are going to truly liberate and love, black people and love this continent to a point that they will do anything to realign everything that was misaligned by colonialism. Togos and Dovgas.
Thokoza Ketla, you say something that is so important, which is that colonized mindset. And I want us to talk a little bit about how this calendar assists you in decolonizing your mindset and assists you in actually getting to the essence of who you are as a spirit having a human experience. Thokoza.
Togos and Jovugas, thank you for that opportunity. The calendar is the foundation of our nation. So therefore, it should be the foundation of any decolonization program. Because whoever determines your time controls your mind. For us to free our minds, we need to revert back to our old ancient calendar that we used before the evil ones arrived there, on our continent. So therefore, it's important, to go back there, so that we start using, this calendar, any decolonization program that will be launched without, its foundation being the calendar, it will be a decolonization program that is half-baked. So this is a decolonization program because the calendar not only assists you in terms of aligning you with the natural flow of energy of the continent, but it also assists you because the calendar has got 12, seasons and principles. And, these 12 seasons and principles are determined by the proximity of the sun and earth. So therefore, when the sun and earth are at this degree, so therefore it makes certain energy is prevalent at a particular time, and it comes with its own character, in terms of energy, which is why all these 12, this is where everything, under these, one of these, 12 principles and calendars, all of us, are birthed under these, trees. Every season has got its trees, has got its own people. And how do you see those people? By their character, the way they behave. When you describe that person's character, you are describing the principle that controls the season. That
person was
the sun was behind when that person was born. So it assists you with the concept of know thyself, which was pushed by our ancestors. Because for you to understand your fleshy nook or your physicality, it's not enough. Because there's a spirit that dwells within you, and that spirit is the controller of your physicality. Because we live in 3 dimensions. The causal, the etheric, and the physical. So therefore, you need to understand all these dimensions so that we are able, when you say you know yourself, it means you understand the core of your being, the character of the principle or the energy that you carry. Either, people who are born under the principle of Jehudi, those are communicators. You don't have to say or ask people, how are they? Because you'll just hear. They love talking and presenting and anything that has to do with communication. So that describes the character of the principle of that season under which that person was born. So it assists you as an African person to know yourself, the core of your being. When you say you know yourself, you must understand the energy that you carry, the energy that gives you that passion, that I'm so passionate about this thing. So the calendar, achieves all that at one sense of God.
So, Ketla, that's really, really powerful the way you've put that, because I think really getting to know your essence or the core of your being or who you are as a spirit by studying whatever principle was prevalent or energy was prevalent at the time you were born. This can, in my own mind, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, this can literally cause a huge paradigm shift in yourself and in how you view the world. Because this calendar is almost like therapy, where you can spend years trying to dig why you behave a certain way. Why are you like this? Trying to find, what am I here for? What is my purpose? What is my talent? But by literally going to the core of your being through studying the principle under which you were born, you can, all that other superfluous work that you've been trying to do, which really just deals with kind of your physical state, you go right to the core, which is your spiritual state. And when you get that right, then your physical state will eventually come right. Thank you for that.
No, sure. No. It's like that end of guys, for us to truly find ourselves. Because what I find, for most of us as African people, you could describe us, as being dead, alive. Why? Because as we live to satisfy the needs of the flesh, right? You would take a profession that goes against the core of your being, because that profession gives you enough money to take care of this flesh and put food on the table. So we have compromised ourselves for a long time, and that has an effect in terms of destroying your neocortex, that frontal, lobe, because you are forever stressed. When you wake up in the morning, you have to go to work, but your spirit, doesn't agree. your spirit is directing you on the other way. But I always suppress the inner of my being. I'm not able to give full expression to the spirit that dwells within me. Why? Because I have to take care of the bills. What does that do to you? You are forever moody. You are forever, angry. You are forever, just demonstrating that somehow evilness, in a way, because when you are not okay, there's an internal conflict within you. You can never be okay physically. You can pretend to be okay, but you are slowly dying. What I normally suggest to people, do both. Take care of, the physical, but find time during weekend or whatever, just 2-3 days, where you do something that resonate with the core of your being, what we call talents. Find time to develop that so that you don't suppress that. Because when you work on your talent, a talent is something that gives you pleasure. You are forever happy. We are forever listening to that divine inspiration. Why? Because you want to take your hustle, to the next level. Huh? You depend on yourself because you are complete. You are everything that you want. Just align, with the energy of the universe. Align with that electromagnetic field that emanates from the sun and the moon, because that is where what they call the Akashic records. This is where they reside. Align yourself. You will never, 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 go hungry again in terms of a divine inspiration.
Thokoza Ketla, wow, that's really powerful, because we have been having this discussion on my page about how uncomfortable it is for many Abantu to be in the workplace. And I was trying to explain that it's going to get more and more uncomfortable as we move forward, because the prevailing energy is an energy that seeks to free you. So whether you're conscious or not, you're going to start, this physical self is going to start getting uncomfortable in certain spaces, because this energy is destroying all colonial structures. If you think about what your job is, it's a company, it's a corporation, it's a colonial structure where you are working as, in quotes, a slave, because you don't own it. It was never your idea. You're simply in there to give it energy. And so you're going to start to feel uncomfortable because you're giving your energy, your essence, to the wrong thing, to something that is ultimately going to crumble. And so I keep saying to people, your ancestors are going to drag you out of those jobs, kicking and screaming, because it no longer serves your higher purpose as an individual, and it no longer serves the collective purpose, which is destruction of these republics and all colonial structures.
That's true, Dr. That is very important. And remember that it was a deliberate move and strategy by the colonizer to keep us in that state of want.
Yes, scarcity.
We're birthed in abundance. Huh? We didn't have to stress because we owned the land. The land feeds me. The land is able to give me resources because I can dig whatever that is there and go and sell it, outside. We were less stressed before the evilness arrived, on the continent. So that's why I'm saying it was a deliberate to kill us whilst alive. Because when you are misaligning me naturally by making me do something that goes against the core of my being, you are killing me. So they did this, deliberately, by taking our land, taking our resources. That then took away the power of self-sufficiency, from us. Now we had to depend on them, which is why for all African people, the focus and the consciousness should be, in efforts that totally liberates the continent.
Thokoza.
Don't focus on yourself on these half-baked, measures and solutions. Focus on efforts that are pushing towards totally liberating Africa,
Yes.
its resources and its land. Because this is when this, misery will end.
Thokoza.
The more we still supporting the colony, as an example here in South Africa, most black people have voted for DA.
Eish.
Huh? They voted for the continuation of colonization, which is why we can never move forward as African people without a strong decolonization program.
Yeah.
How can you explain that? In May, when we voted, that was the Liberation Day. But because other Africans, other black people decided to side with the colonizer, this is what our politics have done. Today as well. Our movement, the ANC, what did they do? When they had the opportunity to bring back our land, now in May, they decided to side with the colonizer.
Wow.
Isn't that a colonized mindset?
It's
That
a
needs to be
dangerous one.
fixed.
Yeah.
And we need to start decolonizing the minds of these leaders, because they are all focused on wanting to maintain this colonial system. We had a perfect system, which is tried and tested. The African, royal structure,
Thokoza.
the governing structure of the continent, tried and tested. That structure is responsible for the civilization of the world. Because
Yeah.
those royals, these are the people who civilized the world. Because the white man has taught us how barbaric that structure is, hiding the truth behind that structure. All of us now say, no, now I'm civilized. I no longer believe in that royal structure. You are then assisting by default the colonizer to perpetuate their colonization on the continent. So we need to stop all this foolishness as African people. Let us clean our royal structure and let it serve us now. Let us fail with our own thing. Not a foreign law, Roman Dutch law, to be implemented on the continent. Remember, Ndlovukazi, even internationally, it is against the international law for any foreign, law to be implemented on another, country without the agreement of those people. So our leaders were lying to us when they were telling us about freedom in 1994. They were just, afraid to tell us that they long sold us out. When we're expecting to be liberated, what happened? We are in more chains. And it's because of this political system. The republics on the continent, they are an unjust, system, which must be destroyed. That system holds our land. That system holds our resources. Why are we fixated? All of us, the minute we articulate, you want to form a political party to further strengthen the position of colonizers on the continent. Let us wise up. Move away from these structures. Let us go back to ourselves. We are royal people. Blue blood runs in our veins. So we mustn't behave like, commoners. We are not commoners.
Thokoza.
Africa was ruled by kings and queens. We are a generation that comes from that royal structure. Thokoza and Ndlovukazi.
Oh, Thokoza Kehla. Thank you. Thank you. This is so very important, I think, for people to understand. And I think a lot of what I'm seeing is ignorance, which is why this calendar is very important, because not only, the one we had is in isiZulu, and there are people within South Africa, there are people across the entire continent, there are people across the world who obviously don't understand isiZulu. So the birth of this English version is a first step into ensuring that every Black person gets the knowledge and information they need. Number one, to align with the energies of home, of Africa. And number two, to decolonize and to get to know who they really are. And number three, I think also to open a gateway where you can start doing further work and research into who were these ancestors of ours who are so great, and how did they manage to do the things that they did
Yes.
in that time. And to also understand that this very genius that our ancestors displayed is absolutely present in us today.
That's
So
true. That's true. That's
towards
true.
towards so for me, it's that Sankofa that is so important, and this
Yes.
calendar gives you a starting point to Sankofa as well as a practical guide to align with yourself. Anyone can open a book, a history book, and read, and that is abstract thinking, that is intellectual. But what the calendar will do is it will go to your soul, it will align you with your spirit self, which is your God self, which is your
Yes.
goddess self, which is your creator self, so that you can become creative in the manner
No,
in
sir.
which you're supposed to be creative. So, Nkulu, I'm excited. I mean, everybody knows here I've been screaming and screaming and dancing and all sorts of things because I'm really super excited about this work.
Yes.
And on behalf of the diaspora, the royals in the diaspora, the royals on the continent, I just
Yes.
want to extend a deep felt thank you for all the hard work that you have put in on our behalf. We know that it has not been easy. We love you more because you have a strident voice that isn't afraid to speak that which many of us are afraid to articulate. You literally have become the voice of the voiceless in terms of Africans needing to decolonize, realign, so that we can become who we were created to be on this planet. So for that, I'm really, really grateful, Mkulu. Mkulu, anything else you'd like to share with us, particularly? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear him, of guys. Can
Wonderful.
you hear me?
Yes, absolutely. They wanted to
Yes.
they wanted to close the live because it's been
Yes,
going
yes,
on. So I
of
had
guys,
to.
it's about to close. All I'm saying, let us use this calendar as a practical tool to unite Black people all over the world. You know, those must be the departing, words. We need each other. Let us, act as a collective, and be normal again. We can overcome anything that is a challenge to us as long as we act as a unison. Thokozani, Thokozani.
Towards Ketla, one last thing.
Yes.
We can keep you here forever if you don't mind. We love having you here. I can see we have 130 active listeners right now. I
Yes.
have some people who want to ask questions. Would you be open to me opening so that people can ask questions?
Oh, no, certainly. Certainly.
Towards. Okay, let's see. There is somebody who wanted to ask a question. I'm going to put them one by one so that we don't stress the system, because then the sound quality is poor and then I won't be able to save it. So I've just put somebody on.
So I've
Tawaza
just
Kim,
put
how are
somebody
you?
on. So I've just Kim, put
How are
somebody
you?
on.
Sorry,
So I've just
my internet,
Hayi
sorry.
bangabhali Ndlovukazi ufunde.
Oh,
Kim, you can go ahead. I think
hi, sorry,
you're
my
fine.
internet. Hello. Good evening, Kulu. Good evening, Coco. My name is Kim. I'm from Zimbabwe. I'm based here in the UK, and I was just thinking. I've just been thinking whilst I've been following the live, and I've been wondering, are we as Africans, because of our timing, because of the calendar that's been misaligned, is it why we're always kind of lethargic?
Oh,
There's times, there are times I find that my body, there are times that I feel like I just need to rest. And at night, I'm so wakeful. I'm so alert. So I've just been thinking maybe Even this 9 to 5 job, I cannot do a 9 to 5 job. I've tried many times. I've been unsuccessful. Is that the reason why? Maybe I haven't really kind of tapped into my actual calling or my talent to figure out what I need to do in this time and space on earth.
Thokoza Mkhulu,
Thank
over
you.
to you.
Thokoza, Ndlovukazi. Yes. Remember that, there is nothing that we are going to achieve on the continent whilst we go against the natural flow of energy on the continent. There's absolutely nothing. The whole continent need to realign. That's why we are forever in poverty, forever in these negative things, because all of us consciously are going against the natural flow of energy. Remember, for there to be a birth, there's got to be harmony between what is physical and what is spiritual. Without that harmony, nothing, can be birthed. So we need to realign. And, this could be, one of the problems in Ndlovukazi, amongst other things. If you have a calling, please, research that, so that we are able to find people that will assist you in making you understand, what you have to do. And another thing, what you need to get used to as well, Ndlovukazi, get used to communicating with that core of your being. Every time before you sleep, ask that core, that spirit energy within you, for any advice, for any answers that you want. Because I believe if you are to be initiated, that message should fall on you first before any other person. So please learn to communicate with the spirit every day, because we are building now a relationship, until things just happen automatically. Whatever you think, it manifests, because you are in harmony and you are resonating with that, energy.
Okay, Kim, I hope that answered your question. If you could just drop, so that we can see if someone else comes on. We're trying just to keep the sound quality good. I'm not seeing anyone else who's requesting Kehla. But again, at this point, hey, Diaspora family, give us a bunch of hearts if you would like us to do this again.
Yes.
Let me see some hearts. If you would like Kulu to come back, I need to see some hearts. Drop those hearts, drop those hearts. Let's see some hearts going. And that will be my affirmation that we can do this once again. This has been such, yes, there go the hearts. I see them. Yeah, there go the gifts. I see you. Thank you. We have 138 people who are here with us right now.
Yes.
Mkhulu, I see, now that we have you, we don't want to let you go. So I'm going to be thinking of questions to keep you here. Let's talk about the New Year celebration, September 2024. What are people to expect? I mean, people in the diaspora.
September 23rd in Ndlovukazi, not 24.
No, I said September 2024.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yes.
What was the question?
So the question is, what are people to expect? Those of us who've been there already know, but there are people for whom this is going to be a new experience. And also talk a little bit about this sacred, the most sacred place in the world, and what you might have experienced there. Perhaps it's better to go with your experience. But let's go into that celebration and those sacred ceremonies for a little bit.
And of course, the importance of that side, it is an energy vortex. When you are on that side, your protons, electrons, neutrons are balanced automatically. You just feel the harmony within you, because this is where the electromagnetic field of Earth moves. This is, you know, what Ubab Credo said. It is the path of the gods. So you will be in that, you know, environment. It's just a pouring of energy. You know, it's difficult to describe. You have to experience it yourself, because it's some sort of renewal. You know, remember, because the principle that is responsible for the season, it's Asa, and is the god of renewal. So as the southern hemisphere is being renewed, or the energy of renewal, you first receive it by being there on site. So it has so many benefits spiritually, in terms of health and everything. And besides, the theme, remember, is Black unity. This year, we are taking that power and energy to energize us, to go and push very hard to destroy the remaining, you know, legislation and laws and structures of a colonial system. So this is why it's important this year. You know, a lot of people, you know, have promised to come, so that, remember, when we are together and repeating same mantras, you know, that gives us power for us to be able to change our material condition because of cymatics. Remember, you know, that vibrational frequency is able to change the reality, you know, to be what we want if we act as a collective. That is why other nations, they do these things as a collective. The Jewish pray together as a collective, you know, to change their material condition. So that is why it's important for us as Black people to get used to this thing. You know, as an example, we do the reverence, you know, chants at 12 o'clock noon. If all Black people at that time will be doing the same chant, our material condition will change much faster, instead of the behavior that, you know, we are demonstrating currently.
That's amazing. So Diaspora Family, for those of you who want to join and who can join in September physically, if you are in need of more information in terms of how to get your air tickets, if you have questions about what accommodation might look like, do get in touch. I will put you in touch with a couple of people who assist us, who will be able to assist you on that front. But this, guys, come home. It's going to be amazing. It always is amazing. You are transformed. You are never the same person you are when you went there. Take it from somebody who's been there a couple of times. You really are never the same person afterwards. Because when Mkulu talks about this renewal, there is a renewal that happens at the cellular level, at the spiritual level, at the physical, at the emotional, at the psychological, at the mental level. You are not the same person in so many ways. The healing is deep healing that happens there. So if you can make it, those of you in South Africa, you really have no excuse. And like, don't talk to me if like, I don't want to know you. No, serious. You know, I always say this to our South African royals. You have no idea how gifted you are to have a place like that in your backyard. For many people, it's a mere 5-6 hour drive, maybe longer, but you can get in a car and drive, where some of us have to get on a plane and pay thousands of dollars to get to this place. So South Africans, I don't want to hear you. I don't want to know. I don't want any excuses. We are going in Zalo. I am flying. Okay? I am flying 18 hours to get there. All you need to do is get yourself in a car and get there. So
Yeah.
let's demonstrate this Black unity. Let's come together and let's become the amazing beings that we were. This unity is a threat to the
Yes.
establishment. It is a threat to our sellout politicians because they like the status quo. It is a threat to religious leaders because, well, they milk you all for your money for nothing, for a bunch of nonsense. It is a threat to white people because their colonial structures literally depended on our being divided. So if you think about that for a minute and you think of how any of this mess has benefited you, then your decision to unite with the collective becomes almost automatic. So on that note, Mkulu, thank you so much. Siyabonga, ngiboneka mkati. Thank you. Enkosi, thank you guys for being here with us. It's 12:12 on the clock on my side, which is great. That is affirmation of what we are doing. And see Mkulu on the next one. I am going to he's very enthusiastic about coming and sharing lessons with us. So we will continue this. So see you guys on the next one. Masithokozeni.
Thokoza, thokoza, ntombi. Thokozeni, thokozeni.